Have you ever wondered what it would feel like if your sense of self, the I you cling to, the ego you defend, simply vanished? What if all your identities, roles, worries, and ambitions dissolved in an instant? This experience, often referred to as ego death, might sound frightening at first, but across mystical traditions, Eastern philosophy, and modern psychedelic research, it is revealed as one of the most transformative experiences a human can undergo. Rumi called it the spiritual death that births a higher consciousness. Neuroscience now confirms that temporary ego dissolution can recalibrate our brain, our sense of meaning, and even our long-term psychological well-being. Ego death is not about literal disappearance. It is the profound dissolution of the boundaries we place between ourselves and the world. It is the moment when the self ceases to dominate perception, when the internal chatter, the constant judging, comparing, planning, quiets to reveal a vast, interconnected awareness. In mystical traditions like Sufism, this is described as fana, or the annihilation of the self into divine unity. In Eastern Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta, it is the realization that the self is an illusion, a construct that limits our perception of reality. Modern science has started to explore this too. Studies with psilocybin and other psychedelics demonstrate that temporary ego dissolution is accompanied by decreased activity in the brain's default mode network, the area responsible for self-referential thought. People report feelings of unity, timelessness, and profound peace. These experiences often lead to long-term positive changes, reduced anxiety, increased compassion, and a shift away from self-centered thinking. This is not about escaping reality. It's about seeing reality without the distortions of the ego. To make this relatable, think of the ego like a lens or filter on a camera. Every thought, emotion, and perception passes through it, shaping the image of reality that you experience. When the lens disappears, suddenly you see the scene as it is, vast, unbounded, and interconnected. One real-life example comes from individuals who undergo guided psychedelic therapy for end-of-life anxiety or depression. Many describe feeling completely merged with the world, losing the fear of death and returning to everyday life with a profound sense of peace and purpose. The I they were so attached to is no longer the dictator of experience, and life feels richer for it. Rumi expressed this beautifully in his poetry. Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you, and do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come? Ego death, in essence, is surrender. It is the willingness to let go of control and allow life, consciousness, and reality itself to flow through you. From a psychological perspective, this surrender has tangible benefits. The ego is constantly defending itself, worrying about status, possessions, judgments, and identity. It creates fear and separation. When that defense temporarily falls away, even briefly, individuals often report increased empathy, a sense of wonder, and freedom from self-imposed limitations. Viktor Frankl, in his reflections on meaning, suggested that true fulfillment comes when we transcend the self and dedicate ourselves to something larger, a principle echoed in mystical and psychedelic accounts of ego dissolution. Practically speaking, there are ways to experience aspects of ego dissolution without psychedelics. Meditation, deep mindfulness, and contemplative practices can quiet the mind's chatter and reduce self-referential thinking. Even a few minutes of focused breathing, awareness of sensations, or mindful observation of nature can reveal glimpses of that boundless awareness beyond the self. A real example, people who practice daily mindfulness often report a shift in perspective, realizing that their anxieties, desires, and ego-driven narratives are not the entirety of reality, but merely passing phenomena. Over time, this cultivates psychological resilience, clarity, and emotional balance. 3 practical takeaways for approaching ego death in daily life. First, cultivate mindfulness. Regular meditation or contemplative practice is like training the mind to let go of the ego's grip slowly and safely. Second, embrace uncertainty and impermanence. Life is always in flux. Resisting it strengthens the ego, while acceptance opens the door to transformation. Third, engage with experiences that dissolve rigid self-identities, whether through art, nature, deep conversation, or even controlled, guided psychedelic therapy, when appropriate and legal. These experiences provide a mirror in which the ego can soften and reveal the larger consciousness beyond. A metaphor to hold on to. Imagine a drop of water in the ocean, thinking it is separate, limited, and fragile. In the moment of ego death, the drop recognizes it has always been the ocean, vast, interconnected, infinite. That recognition does not erase the drop's uniqueness. Rather, it expands its understanding, allowing it to experience life fully, free from fear, resistance, and unnecessary boundaries. Ultimately, ego death is not about losing your mind or escaping reality. It is about discovering the expansive, interconnected life that has always been present beneath the surface of your self-centered thoughts. It's a paradox. By losing yourself, you gain a deeper, more authentic connection to reality, to others, and to your own inner life. Rumi, Ram Dass, and modern neuroscience all converge on this truth, that letting go of the ego is not annihilation, but a liberation. In the next section, we will explore how to integrate these experiences into everyday life, ensuring that the insights gained from ego dissolution, whether mystical, meditative, or psychedelic, translate into lasting psychological and spiritual growth. Ego death teaches us that the self we cling to, our identities, stories, and mental constructs, is not the totality of who we are. True transformation occurs when we allow these boundaries to dissolve, even temporarily, revealing a deeper, interconnected awareness. This experience is not about losing yourself in a frightening void, but about awakening to the larger reality that has always been present beneath the chatter of the ego. By surrendering the need for control, certainty, or constant validation, we open ourselves to profound psychological and spiritual growth. Practically, this means cultivating awareness in daily life. First, embrace mindfulness. Notice thoughts, emotions, and impulses without judgment, recognizing them as passing phenomena rather than absolute truths. Second, practice letting go. Consciously release attachments to outcomes, material possessions, and rigid self-concepts. By doing so, you create mental and emotional space for insight, compassion, and creativity to emerge. Third, seek transformative experiences safely. Deep meditation, immersive nature experiences, or guided practices such as contemplative retreats, or, when appropriate, psychedelic therapy, can catalyze shifts in perspective, helping integrate the lessons of ego dissolution into ordinary life. A metaphor: imagine a cloud drifting across the sky. You may identify with its shape, color, or movement, yet ultimately, it is part of the vast, limitless sky. Ego death is recognizing that your individual identity is like the cloud, temporary, ever-changing, while your awareness is the boundless sky itself. From this perspective, fear, anxiety, and the illusion of separation lose their grip. In the end, losing the ego is not an end, but a beginning. It is a gateway to authentic presence, deeper empathy, and freedom from self-imposed limitations. When we allow life to flow through us, as Rumi urged, we discover a richer, more expansive way of being. The dissolution of self is not death. It is the awakening of consciousness, the liberation of spirit, and the realization that the truest version of you has always existed beyond the ego's confines.